I would love to hear from Tina a little bit about the background of what led you all to a content design system. What was the genesis of that project? Who all's worked on it? And would love to dig into the role it has on the team today.
I think there were probably two things that influenced my decision to break out and create a content systems team and role. The first thing was that the team had gotten big enough to a point where we were going to need to probably subdivide. So when I came into Intuit, we had a team of about 10 content designers. But once it became apparent that we were going to be growing and we were going to subdivide and we were going to need another manager, it sort of became obvious that we were going to need tools and systems and processes to keep us aligned. And I think the second thing is that we wanted to make sure that we were taking full ownership and accountability for voice and tone and for style and language. A lot of content decisions were being made based on opinions of who happened to be in the room, whoever was leading the project. And so we needed documentation and systems that would help to declare what our decisions around language and style and voice and tone are, and then basically share those with the entire organization and demonstrate that we were actually taking leadership over voice and tone and language decisions.
Cool. And what was it about the culture at Intuit when you arrived that made prioritizing language a priority? And, was that an uphill battle with leadership? Was that something that you all were blessed with, and why?
I think there was a couple of things happening at the time. We had taken a good hard look at the QuickBooks product and the voice and tone of the QuickBooks product. We asked our customers, we asked our product managers, we asked our VPs, we asked our content designers, what is the voice of QuickBooks? And the answers that we heard were sad. They told us that QuickBooks sounds robotic, that QuickBooks sounds like an accountant, that QuickBooks sounds like it's trying to be your cool uncle. Nothing that we were very proud of. And so we knew that if there was going to be a change in the QuickBooks voice, that was going to have to come from us. It's going to have to come from the content team. We have plenty of competitors who are chomping at the bit and also creating accounting software for small businesses. And so if we were going to differentiate ourselves from them, it was going to be because we were going to create this long-term relationship with customers by demonstrating that we understand where they're coming from, by being the champion in their corner, always fighting for them. Since small businesses, they have a lot on the line, they have so much at stake. And so we needed to build their confidence and demonstrate that we could be that champion in their corner. We've got backing of decades of experience in small business accounting.
Now that it is out there and is established within the culture of QuickBooks, how do you maintain it? What's upkeep like? Cross-functionally, what does it look like? Would love to dig into that.
Yeah, so right now the content systems team itself is a small but mighty team of 3 people, and we provide the tools and the resources that help content designers scale themselves. But I'd say the people involved in the work on the content design site is the whole content org. So we operate on an open contribution model. So this work can't be done without the expertise of all of the content designers. We have a style council, and I lead that with about 22 other folks. They're content designers who work in marketing, they work in product, they work at QuickBooks, they work for Mint, they work in TurboTax. So it's really all corners. We meet once a month. I keep a log of either wordless submissions that people have submitted or patterns that we're seeing that, could be made repeatable and faster if we have guidelines around it and guardrails. And we talk about all that stuff. We do a lot of research, and we eventually try to come to a one Intuit decision. And that's really important for our content design. It's really important that whatever guidance we're putting out there is not just for QuickBooks, but it's also applicable to TurboTax and Mint and ProConnect.
And when you all began making inclusive language a priority, not just in the content design system, but in content design as a whole, walk us through, what triggered that. Had it always been a priority? Just from the outside, it seems like, it took on a new importance. What was the genesis of the inclusive language push at Intuit?
It was a couple of years ago that we declared our readability standards. So we decided that we were going to aim for a 5th to 8th grade reading level. And the reason that we were going to aim for that reading level is because it is readable and understandable and comprehensible to the widest audience. And that was kind of the beginnings of our accessibility and inclusion push. And then about a year ago, when we could see what was just sort of happening in the world, especially in the United States, and racial injustice and social upheaval, realizing that we had a role to play in making language anti-racist also.
So I'd say when we first started, I had no idea how to change a term in a product, especially one that's as large as QuickBooks. I consider us really lucky that we never really got a ton of pushback. And I think that's mostly due to the fact that Sasan, our CEO, had made a public declaration that we would not be silent about racism, and, standing together, being stronger together, diversity and inclusion is a core company value. There were two main ones that we have worked on so far. One of them was master admin in QuickBooks. So the master admin is the primary admin who has the keys to the castle and can assign new users and is in control of all of the stuff. I say primary admin because that's what they were. And so rather than say master admin, we can use clearer language and say primary. So that was the first push. And the second one was white glove setup. And this came from marketing. It's a feature in QuickBooks where it's basically someone kind of leads you through setting up QuickBooks. And one of our marketing content designers had gathered this data that of the people that were tested, over half of them didn't even know what white glove setup means. And white glove has roots in minstrel shows. And so we were like, well, not only is it oppressive, but it's just not clear. Like, people don't know what it is. And I think that's the case with a lot of language with harmful roots, is that it's very like US Western centric and doesn't really make sense.
Amazing. That's so helpful. How has Writer helped you operationalize your content strategy and that content design system that you all have worked so hard on?
So contentdesign.intuit.com is something that a lot of content designers helped work on. It's a beautiful website that we think really nicely represents our team and where we stand in terms of language. It's a gorgeous website that I think all of the content designers are super proud of. But even the most beautiful style site with the best search function is useless if people don't go to it and use it. So one of the wonderful uses of Writer is that it helps us actually take the style decisions that we had made and put onto our website and brings them to people who don't necessarily have the style guide open all the time in a tab like I do, or like Sarah does. As proud as we are of that site, we recognize that not all 10,000 employees at Intuit, start up their computer in the morning and bring up contentdesign.intuit.com.
It's not only the Intuit style guide and our voice and all that, but it's all the nuances of AP style that not everyone knows about. Inclusive language, the clarity and readability scores, passive voice, all these things that are really almost impossible to retain and recall at any point. So it's been really helpful for that. We can't be writing every single thing for every single flow or every article. Like I said, there are thousands of people writing content at Intuit. And so Writer has been really helpful in allowing us to bring our style guide to people where they work, whether it's in Google Docs, the Figma plugin.
You all did something really special with our APIs, and we actually don't advertise our APIs yet. The platform part of Writer from the go-to-market perspective, we're launching later this year. But you all jumped right in, even though, from a documentation perspective, it was still very early, and built an awesome Slack bot using our inclusive language API. And I would love to hear, where the demand for that came internally and how it's going.
So we used Writer in an unexpected and wonderful way this year. After we released our anti-racist guidelines, a couple of Slack engineers came to us and they wanted to build something for Global Engineering Days, which is something that Intuit has twice a year. And it's just a time when engineers can drop everything and work on these innovative projects. They came to us wanting to build a bot that incorporated our anti-racist guidelines because they were really passionate about inclusive language. Not everyone has the style guide up in a tab in Chrome like we do. And so we decided to take it one step further and expand. Like, what if we could expand our inclusivity guidelines to include what's already flagged in Writer? So age, disability, sex and gender, family status. And we were able to leverage Writer's API and also manage our own terms in the style guide with Writer. So we were able to add our own terms and then use Writer's terms. And what happened is, if someone uses a harmful word on Slack in a Slack channel, the bot would reply privately to that person. And the message was something along the lines of, hey there, we champion inclusivity at Intuit, and that includes the words that we use. This word, whatever it is, like grandfathered, has roots in the Jim Crow era and is harmful. So rather than using this, why not try legacy status instead? So we always tried where possible to highlight the term and its origins and why it was harmful, and then what some better alternatives could be. And the best part about this bot is that it did flag it privately. So it really created a safe sandbox for people to learn and do better without calling them out in public.
This was just really efforts to help us all create a more inclusive culture at Intuit. Tons and tons of feedback from people saying, oh my God, this is insane. This is so great. I had no idea that we had the capability to do something like this. And I'm really proud to work at a place that champions inclusion or inclusivity in language. I think one of the things that we found is that so many times when we change one of those outdated terms, we're not just improving on the inclusivity of our language, we're actually making it more clear.
So there's a 1-year plan and a 3-year plan. What can you share with us on both of those?
I would say, I know that we're just beginning to scratch the surface on what AI can do for content teams. I think that we're finally past the hump of content designers worrying that robots were going to take their jobs and we wouldn't be able to write anything anymore. And we're actually accepting the fact that having robots write some stuff under good guidance and under good frameworks frees us up to write the really important stuff. We'll continue to use tools and AI and continue as content designers to think in a more systemic way and think about the way that we build content and create messaging frameworks that AI then can use, rather than thinking of every piece of content as a bespoke little unit that requires, handcrafted human content designers.
I think we'll see more widespread use of AI and natural language processing, especially now that, a lot more teams are really starting to use and understand Writer and the things that it can do for them. I think using AI to help augment the writing process, not overtake, is, again, like Tina said, something that our teams understand. And, I think content designers have all experienced that anxiety that a cursor on a blank page gives. So, and nowadays many content creators are being asked to create content faster and are given remarkably little time to brainstorm and let things marinate and edit and go away and come back.